Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? If you cannot hear me for some reason and you see that our slides are moving through, just type in the chat box, no sound. Otherwise, I'll assume you can hear. I tested it this morning with Faith, so hopefully all is well. So welcome to our presentation today. It is our second presentation in our Let's Talk About series that we started this year. So today our presentation is talking about mental health. And my name is Mariah Benson. I'm from the Rock Island County Health Department, and I'm the health educator, and I'm also a coalition member of the cause, and I'm the facilitator for the coalition. Faith, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hello, my name is Faith Moiser. I am also a part of the cause, and I work with the Martin Luther King Center in Rock Island. I'm a substance abuse prevention specialist, and I'm excited to have you guys here with us today.
Thank you. So just a couple quick housekeeping things real quick. The meeting is being recorded, so we can send this out to our partners and community at another time, and you'll be able to watch that recording again if you need to go back and reference anything. Everyone is muted right now. There's no video or anything like that, so we can focus on the presentation itself. If you do have questions, though, please type them in the chat box. We are going to have a brief Q&A at the end of the presentation, and so I will be monitoring the chat as we go through. So any questions that come up or any feedback you want to provide, please put that in the chat box. So first, we want to just talk about our coalition itself and who we are. So we are the cause, and that is the coalition advocating for underage substance elimination. So that is what we are focusing on. Our mission statement is on the screen here. Our mission is to collaboratively inform the community about the negative effects of substance use and to decrease youth substance within Rock Island County. So some things that we do, we try to come up with like yearly goals. We participate in community events. We keep up with the current data coming out of the Illinois Youth Survey. So we really get a look at data that's impacting the youth in our community. We do educational programs within the schools, participate in the DEA Drug Take Back Day that happens twice a year. So we really try to be involved in the community. So our coalition is actually made up of different organizations. And the reason that the cause is even possible to exist is because of our community involvement. So city and county organizations, even volunteers from the community, we accept anyone who wants to support our mission and our goals. We're even currently seeking more organizations and individuals to join us. So if our mission really touches you and you want to help us combat substance use in Rock Island County, we definitely invite you to join us. And here's just some of our organizations listed on the screen of our active members currently. So this is the outline for today, things we're going to talk about. We are definitely going to try to keep this under an hour. All of these things listed here. We want to make sure we have time for that Q&A at the end. And we're even going to be giving away a gift card at the end. So make sure you're paying attention to those facts. We're going to test you at the end, and the winner is actually going to win a gift card. So we'll talk about kind of what you already know, like testing to see your knowledge. We'll talk about some different factors, contributing factors, protective factors, some local and national resources to really help us navigate through our mental health journey, and then we'll wrap it up with the Q&A. And then finally, before we begin, we wanted to put this disclaimer out here because we, like I mentioned, we're just a coalition. We really focus on prevention, but we are definitely not mental health professionals in that type of sense. So we do not provide therapy, counseling, or diagnostic services. We're merely just focusing on prevention through education. So a lot of the information we are sharing today is from sources that are very credible. The Substance Use and Mental Health Services Administration, American Journal of Preventive Medicine, the American Psychiatric Association, the CDC, the National Institute on Drug Abuse, and more. So we're really kind of focusing on these credible sources, seeing what's out there, and kind of tying it into our mission statement. So If you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, definitely make sure you contact the numbers listed here. But thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope we can at least provide you some new things, and you'll be able to use this information in your own life and hopefully share with others too. So from here, I am going to let Faith take over. And again, if you missed the very beginning, if you have any questions as we are going through, please type them in the chat box. We will mention them in the Q&A at the end.
All right, thank you so much, Mariah, for that introduction and that summary of what the cause does. So as we begin, we know that mental health is quite a large umbrella to talk about. And with a lot of our different sectors, we know that abbreviations are so much fun. And so here's just a few that we might be coming across today. SAMHSA is a national organization that talks about substance abuse and mental health. The APA. The DSM-5 is what we are going to be focusing on with some of our definitions. It was published in 2013, the volume 5, so there are some newer definitions from what might have been in like the DSM-4, but that is kind of the go-to manual that is published by the American Psychiatric Association. So we'll be referring to that today. A lot of our resources also are from the CDC and how the CDC partners with the Journal of Preventative Medicine, with Kaiser Permanente, and other organizations. We're also going to be talking about trauma. So the NCTSN is the National Child Traumatic Stress Network. Also, some of our terms, you might see SUD or a SUD, that is a substance use disorder. So this is part of the new DSM-5 definition, is that the terms substance abuse and substance dependence, now those have become one diagnosis. So before they were two separate things, and now they have become one. They've also kind of rearranged and helped clarify what symptoms they're looking at that would go into that diagnostics. But instead of using addiction or abuse or those kinds of terms, you will be seeing SUD or SUD or substance use disorder. We will also be talking about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which is an anxiety disorder that is brought on from past trauma. An important part of this is that the trauma does not necessarily need to be individually for that person that they experienced it. It can be a significant distress that they witnessed. It can be something, it's a wide variety. So again, that big umbrella of what trauma can mean. And we will be diving into that as well. So if there is at any point during this presentation a term, an abbreviation, something like that that you just want clarified, again, please put it in the chat box. We want to make sure that we can clarify any information that we are sharing. All right, so we're going to start with just kind of a true or false kind of test your knowledge. Feel free to either just silently think about it in your head, or if you want to type it in the chat box, then that is wonderful as well. But we're just going to go through some different items that you might have heard out in the public. So we're going to start with our first one. About 20% of US adults experience a mental health issue. Do you think that is true or false? All right, so for this one, this is true. So 20% is 1 in 5, and that is any kind of mental health issue that can be diagnosed. But then to go even further, 1 in 25, so roughly 4% of people in the US live with what is categorized as a serious mental illness, such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or major depression. So it's obviously, it is not a uncommon issue. It is something that we wanted to make sure that we were addressing because it affects a lot of us. And whether or not we have that diagnosis or if it's a family or friend, we know that it impacts us as a community and as a society. All right, so our next one is mental health problems are a sign of weakness in character. Is this true or false? And this is indeed a big myth. This is false. We will be diving into these contributing factors, but it is definitely a mix of nature and nurture. We're going to be looking at biology, but also environmental factors and different experiences. So it is not at all a sign of weakness. It is not something that we should judge somebody on. It is an actual illness. All right, people with mental health challenges are more violent than the general public. Is this true or false? So this is false. When they've looked at different crime statistics and things like that, the level of violence is about the same as the general public, but the likelihood that someone with mental illness is a victim is actually 10 times more likely. So that idea of people that are mentally ill or going through a mental health crisis are going to be super violent, that is a myth. We really need to focus on how to help each other and help those with mental illness, and especially making sure that they are protected from others so that they are not a victim. Suicide is the third leading cause of death in the US among 15 to 34-year-olds. True or false? This is false. It is sadly the second leading cause of death. It is the second leading cause of death for that age group in the US and globally. It is also now the 10th leading cause of death overall for all age groups. And it's about it is about 48,000 individuals that are completing suicide each year. When we look at the global scale as well, it's approximately 800,000 people who are completing suicide each year. So again, this is definitely a large issue that we wanted to make sure that we address with empathy and understanding and with facts. All right, looking at our local area, Rock Island County high school students reported higher rates of depression and suicidal thoughts than your average Illinois high school student. Is this true or is this false? This is sadly true. So every other year during the even years, we have this thing called the Illinois Youth Survey, or the IYS, and it asks a myriad of questions about different behaviors, about substance use, about nutrition, but they also do ask about mental health. So what you see here is from the 2018 survey, and in red, we have the Rock Island County students for 10th and 12th grade. And in blue, we have the Illinois state report, so your average across the whole state. And we are significantly higher in those that have seriously considered suicide, as well as with the 10th and 12th graders when they were asked if they had experienced sadness or hopelessness for such an extended period of time that they actually had stopped doing something that was in their normal activities, their normal schedule. So not only is it a global issue, but it's also a local issue. And we know that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So we definitely want to make sure that we're also doing what we can here in our own community. All right. More than 70% of teens receiving substance use disorder treatment reported a history of trauma. Is this true or is this false? This is also true. So there's definitely a tie between substance use disorders and histories of trauma. We have also seen a history between PTSD and SUDs as an adult. We've seen that there is about a quarter of our children or adolescents have at least experienced one traumatic event. We also know that about 12% of 17-year-olds in the US have experienced PTSD. So trauma is happening for our children as well. It's not just something where, PTSD in the media might be shown mainly for our veterans, but we're also starting to address the idea of PTSD because of other traumatic events that happen, again, in our own community and in our own backyard. So thank you for going through that little test. We're just trying to figure out, those myths or those fact versus fiction. So we're going to dive into these different contributing factors of mental illness. And it really is a wide range of the reasons for the why. We have biological factors, social environmental factors, and psychological factors. Right now, we know that like COVID and the pandemic and shelter in place and those things, that can be a contributing factor because of social environmental like exclusion. We're becoming more isolated. We also do have a biological agent going around. We have different ideas and different beliefs. All of these different things do impact our mental health on different levels. So this is, again, a wide range of reasons why, but we will be focusing a little bit more on trauma and ACEs. So that term ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. So this is another one that we're going to be referring to all the way through. It's talking about trauma as a child and talking about how it impacts the brain, how it impacts the body, and future decision making. So here we have these different examples. And in the 90s, Kaiser Permanente, along with the CDC in San Diego, started this study where they were asking a lot of middle-aged folks about their past and analyzing things that had happened to them before they were 18, and also kind of looking at some of their health at that time. So they made this survey that was 10 questions long to look at signs of abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. So as a quick self-evaluation, you obviously do not need to share your number in this chat box or anything, but we're going to quickly go over what some of the points were so you can maybe get a rough estimate of what your ACE score would be as well. So before you were 18, did you often experience physical abuse? Did you experience emotional abuse? Did you experience sexual abuse? Did you experience physical neglect or emotional neglect? Did you witness violence towards your mother, stepmother, a guardian? Also, before you were 18, did your parents divorce? Did you experience someone with a mental illness inside your home or a substance use disorder? Did maybe a relative spend time in prison? All of those different aspects do contribute, contributing factors, they do contribute to the mindset, to the physiology of a child as they are growing up. So if you know roughly what your number was, you can kind of see what group you're in. The initial study was done in the 90s. There have been some follow-ups as well, as they have been learning more about ACE scores. And so this graph that you see right here, I believe, is from 2016. And so at this point, for those who have a score of 2 or above, that's 38% of the population in the US. Yes, in 2016. There's also some things to consider, that the ACE score, with it being only 10 questions, they're not asking about frequency, duration, or severity. Just did it happen? And so we do know that that can also adjust for things where someone might only have a score of 2, but it could have potentially been a very severe 2. So we know that this is just giving a base idea, and that there's definitely more to study and more to consider, because each of us is an individual and each of our experiences is unique. So some of the biggest impact that we see is this idea of epigenetics. And epigenetics is when the genes still maintain their DNA, but they actually change how they work. And as we might have heard of like fight or flight, and that idea of fight, flight, or freeze, those things can also change depending on the stress hormone that's released, depending on different neurological triggers and different ways that our brain is actually molded by being in stressful and traumatic situations, especially for prolonged periods of time. With one of the more updated studies with the ACE that came out a few years ago, they did follow that same group of individuals as they started passing away, and they were realizing that those with a 6 or higher ACE score were having a 20-year lowered life expectancy than those who had scored 0 previously. So we're starting to see more of these long-term effects the longer that we're studying, but we know that some of that life expectancy is because of some behaviors, like smoking and alcohol use, substance abuse, those kinds of things. But also we're seeing on a biological level of higher likelihoods of some of our physical illnesses. So that also, as we know, one little ripple goes out and makes a lot more ripples. Even if one person then has a chronic disease or starts having more risky behavior, that also affects the people around them and the community around them as well. All right, so these were some of the interesting connections that they discovered through this study. And so we're just going to run through some of them, especially since we are a coalition that focuses on substance use prevention. Some of the ones that are interesting, again, that 38% of the population of 2016 had a score of 2 or higher. So we're starting just with that score of 2. And already someone with a score of 2 is 4 times more likely to consider themselves an alcoholic as an adult. With just a score of 3, they're 2 times as likely to be an adult smoker, 7 times more likely to inject drugs. With 4 plus, we go from anywhere from having 2 times as likely to have cancer, 4 times as likely to have chronic bronchitis or emphysema, which is also most likely tied to that higher likelihood of being a smoker as well. 7 times more likely to be consider themselves as an alcoholic, 10 times more likely to inject drugs, and 12 times more likely to attempt suicide once in their lifetime. So again, this is just scraping the top. This is just showing some correlations. We cannot for sure say that these are causal relationships, that this trauma will definitely cause these outcomes, but they do have a higher potential of happening. The good news is that since they're just a correlation, and there are things that we can do to help. So we can help as individuals, we can help as a community, and we can help as a society. So here are some different ideas for what we can do, what is in our circle of control. So the main things, like right now, you guys showed up this morning to learn more, which is wonderful and great. So going forth to educate yourself, trying to correct maybe some preconceived notions that we were taught or that we picked up, and being able to say, you know what, like now I see the facts. That's a myth. I need to not only educate myself, but I need to keep pursuing what other myths I might have been believing. That is a great individual step. The next one is listen to your body. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we talk about the idea of those base needs. We need shelter and warmth. We need food, water, nutrition, exercise. We know that exercise releases endorphins and dopamine. We know that nutrition helps our body as well function at a higher level, and it helps with brain function, muscle function, all these different things. So we know that those base needs also affect our mental health. They affect those protective factors going forward for those who might have experienced ACEs. Taking a break. I know I do not have children right now during this COVID crisis, so I know that I have it kind of nice where I can take a break. But for those of you who are, at home trying to find those times of peace, whether it's being able to sit down and just be able to be in the silence, to be able to go and do yoga or stretching, do a mindfulness activity, doing some kind of time that's away to relieve that stress that might have built up during the day or during the week, that can really help protect us. The act of creation is also another one that is great for promoting mental wellness and emotional wellness. So that can come in so many forms. That can come with music and dance, that can come with building any kind of like birdhouse or whatever kind of project you have going on, with painting, with gardening. That idea of creation can really go a long way with mental and emotional health. And again, since we do focus on substance prevention, we ask for everyone to also keep a monitor on any kind of household medications or alcohol that you might have in your home. This goes for over-the-counter medications as well as prescription medications, just because we do know that in times of stress that there is a higher likelihood of trying to self-medicate and looking for things, misusing items, or using things to self-medicate and to soothe. So especially if you are a parent or a guardian, being able to kind of keep tabs, making sure that there aren't certain medications that are going missing, or that all of a sudden you're not all out of whatever was in your alcohol storage. Just trying to keep an eye on that. We also know that we are living through unprecedented times. I mean, we've heard that so much over the last, I've lost track of how many months it's been. So during COVID especially, it can be stressful to us on an individual basis. So some ideas are trying to keep a consistent schedule. That idea of schedule and being able to depend on something can help not only us, but also children or people that we live with. Trying to involve children into the decision-making process throughout the day, trying to find those items where they can have a choice between maybe what their activity after virtual learning is going to be, or what they're going to eat for their snack, or those kinds of things. Trying to create a plan for that recreational screen time, everything in moderation, trying to figure out those ways to take care of yourself as well as celebrate with your students, with your children. Be creative with socializing. We know that social distance doesn't mean don't socialize. It means to be physically distant and to be safe with your physical distancing. So whether it's, more Google Meet meetings, or if it's, those different backyard kind of happy hours or things like that, where social health and wellness is very important and is definitely connected to our mental health and wellness as well. Especially with children, try to remember to validate their feelings, but even with other adults that you are with, or even with yourself, remember that feelings are totally natural. So there's no need to push them away or to feel ashamed by them. Allow yourself to feel those emotions, because that will also help you with that emotional wellness in the end. All right, so with our community, trying to think outside of just our own selves, but with our family, with our friends, our neighborhood, and our city, start the conversation. There's a lot of uncomfortable conversations happening right now, which is a good thing, because it's when we get outside of our comfort zone that we can start exploring new things and learning new things. And part of that is not just starting the conversation, but actively listening to those that you are with to create a genuine dialogue, to really try to learn and respect throughout the process. We also want to make sure that with that active listening comes being a judgment-free kind of area, to be there to maybe only listen. Maybe somebody doesn't want advice at that point. Maybe someone who just needs a resource or things like that, but actively listening to what the other individual actually needs. There's also different social emotional learning activities for you, your family, for your community. There will be, after this presentation, and I believe in the chat box right now, there's a document that we put together that has some different resources. And there is a link to, it's called Roads to Resilience. And it's a cute little board game toolkit activity that was created by the Mayo Clinic. But it's to kind of be an at-home curriculum of sorts to promote activities and conversations with your children and building up that resilience and those protective factors. Joining community coalitions and consortiums or consortiums, I don't know how to say that word, I apologize. But getting to be an active member of your community as well. We know that this isn't for everybody. Some people would rather maybe be at home or help out in other ways. But if you're somebody who likes to have boots on the ground and likes to go out and meet people and those kinds of things, we definitely encourage you. There's lots of different community coalitions in the area. Some of them, like ours, are substance use prevention. Some of them are more behavioral health support, or their mental health, suicide prevention. There's other ones that are just about building up kids. And any of those, if you find one that's interesting to you that you want to pursue, we definitely encourage that. There's different neighborhood projects you could do. If you want to try a neighborhood garden, free little library, trying a pantry, maybe you want to get the kids together and they're going to go up and down a street and collecting trash, or if you see that maybe an elderly neighbor or someone needs to have their lawn mowed, those kinds of things. Because when you develop that community and develop those relationships, it helps moving forward. If somebody is having a crisis, that they have that trust and that respect with you. We also have an event coming up next month for the Drug Take Back Day. This is a semi-annual event. And so things like that, as we talked about, monitoring your medications at your home, monitoring your alcohol and things like that. We also know that once a medication is expired, or you're just done with the prescription, say you have extra pain pills from that surgery a while back, Drug Take Back Day is a safe and anonymous way to get those out of your home. And there will be different places set up around Rock Island County that you can go to drop these off. And they are disposed of through the DEA. So they stay within law enforcement care until they are disposed of, to make sure that they're not accidentally getting into the wrong hands, whether it's someone purposely looking to use them for a reason, or just the fact that, you know, little kids like to get in different places, or elderly people might forget what their schedule is. We just want to make sure that our homes are a healthy place and our community is a healthy place. There are also different community programs to support. We have a nice list there, but it's, again, mainly focusing that people are people and that mental illnesses just happen to anyone. It doesn't discriminate. And again, 1 in 5, so it's 20% of US adults experience some kind of mental health illness. And so these ideas of having early childhood care, mentorship, job training, having that first home buyers program, looking to have services for victims, for family, for grief and loss. The fact that grief and loss doesn't necessarily just mean that someone died, but grief and loss can be, like, again, right now with COVID, there's a lot of loss going on as people are having to move large events, or they're not able to celebrate with family, or maybe they have lost someone and they haven't been able to have that closure because they couldn't travel to the funeral or to be with their loved ones. So that idea of grief and loss, having those different counseling programs, all of those things really do help, again, with that idea of community relations, with building that trust and building up those protective factors. All right, and our last bit is different systemic protective factors. So again, if you're someone who likes to have your boots on the ground and likes to be heard, I definitely encourage you to go and see local government meetings. Right now it's kind of nice because since they're online, they're a little bit easier, especially if you do have kids, to be able to maybe just tune in and listen to school board meetings or city council meetings at home. So that is definitely a way to get involved and to help on a larger scale. We definitely promote expanded healthcare, especially in the sense of recovery care, intervention care, and prevention care. We know that, yes, there are treatment options out there, but many times they get overbooked. There's a waiting list, or it's only a 28-day stay when there are studies that show that longer stays do help with longer term results versus a 28-day stay. There's a higher likelihood for readmittance and things of that nature. It's also good to support family-friendly business practices. So this could go from paid time leave, paternity leave, maternity leave, better insurance to promote those, again, that idea of stability. Male allies in prevention. May we be them, know them, and raise them. The same way that we need allies across all of these different areas, but having strong male allies as well, being able to step up and be mentors and leaders really does help. So again, those other ideas and programs, we do know that mental health is just a part of the comprehensive individual and part of society. So things like housing security and food security definitely play into that. All right, so that was quite a bit. So again, some of these resources, some of these articles, they're going to be listed in this PDF that is in the chat box, as well as will be sent out to all the emails that you registered with today. So we have some different videos going from TED Talks to videos from like Harvard and Mayo, to the data reports that I referred back to, and different activities that you can do with the family. So this brings us to our Q&A time. I'm sorry if I spoke too quickly. I wanted to make sure we had plenty of time for Q&A and for our Kahoot. So Mariah, are there any questions?
At the moment, there are none in the chat box. I'll give it another minute or so in case anyone, now that the presentation is finished, has questions. But again, we kind of just wanted to present this information because mental health sometimes is not as talked about as other health issues, or it is talked about, but not necessarily how do we even address it, especially if you're not the one suffering, but maybe it's a family member or a child. And as a lot of us have been spending more time at home and really close to our family members, we kind of can see now what to look out for, and then also some tips to kind of, you know, kind of just help us get through this time. You know, a lot of us are struggling right now, and so just showing those different factors that we presented is showing that we can still work on this, whether it's individual, in the community, or systemic. You know, we don't have to be alone, and we might feel lonely, but there are those resources out there. So that's why we wanted to talk about this month, especially as students are starting to get back into school, even if they're just doing the e-learning. We're all kind of thrown into this for the first time, and it's something new. So we just wanted to, you know, reassure the community that the resources are out there, and that especially now is a time to really try to watch out for that substance use, especially in our youth. When, as Faith mentioned earlier, she mentioned like grieving and loss. Well, you know, high school seniors are grieving their football season, or they had to miss their prom and things like that. So it's more than just losing someone. It can be all of these different things that students no longer have. So we hope we gave you some tips to kind of help navigate you through this, whether you're going through it or your family or your students. So thank you again for being here today. At this time, Faith, we don't have any questions.
Cool. I will share a little bit before we go into the Kahoot game then. Thinking of that idea of supporting our family or feeling the impact from things of our family. There are like the groups that are publicized more often, like AA, NA, and those kinds of things. There's also some different groups with NAMI that you can look up that are mental health support groups in case if you yourself need the support as someone who's been diagnosed with a mental illness or mental health issue. But also there are things like Alateen, Al-Anon, and different ways for, like, if you know of a child who maybe is in a home or has family or friends that are dealing with a substance use disorder, that's a way for them to get support too. Because again, it's that ripple effect that it's not only just the one individual who has a mental illness, but it's also the people around them definitely have to, they feel that impact as well. So trying to make sure that we support everyone from all sides. Some of those are listed on that PDF of not only just the national groups, but a way to search for local groups or the contact information for some of our local groups. Otherwise, if there are still no questions, then I guess we can move on to our Kahoot game and see who's going to be the winner of our $20 gift card. Woo woo! I'm excited. I don't know. Maybe you guys are too. So if you have not played Kahoot before, you can either open it in a new browser, a new tab, or if you want to get out like your phone or a tablet to open up the app, any of those work. If you're trying to find it on a new browser or tab, I recommend, or you should go to kahoot.it. And then at that point, you will get to a screen that says Game Pin. We are going to ask for your email. This just helps us keep track for mainly the winner so that we know where we need to send the e-gift card. But you also want to make sure that you can see this screen as well, because the questions will pop up on this screen, and then on the area where you're answering, if you look in like here over on the right, you get a different image. So to see the actual question, you need to have this window open. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing this to move over to the other one so we can begin. Maybe. Wait just a second, sorry. All right, is everyone seeing the Kahoot screen with the game pin?
Yes, at least I am.
All right, very nice. So on within your screen, if you put in the number 9215179, then it will take you to the next one, which should ask for your email. This is whatever email you would want us to send that Amazon gift card to. And then after that, it will have a way for you to like kind of spin the wheel to figure out what your nickname is going to be today. I believe one time I played this, I was the awkward buffalo. So, you know. Ooh, the diligent condor, the genius quail. Very nice. Ah, the Yeti.
I'm going to play along for fun. This is Mariah, but I'm not going to win the prize if I, for some reason, get first place. But I'm just doing it for fun with you guys.
Cool, cool. The more the merrier. The last time that we played, we had a whole family that was listening. So they had registered to the webinar under one, and then everybody had their own like devices. And it was actually one of the daughters who ended up winning. So if you have a child or a partner with you that wants to join in, feel free. That's totally fine. We welcome everyone. All right, I'm going to start in a few seconds. If you're having any troubles logging on, please let us know through the chat box so we can help you. All right, so we are going to begin. And it will start off with some tester questions that are not going to be worth any points, and then we'll work up to ones that do have points. All right, so as I just said, we're going to do some practice questions. So as you can see on your screen or on your device, it's telling you, hey, look up there. So all of your questions are going to be up on this screen. So make sure that you can see both. So we are going to have some true and false. We're going to have some multiple choice and then some short answer kind of polling questions as well that you will need to type into. So we're going to start off with a poll. What is your favorite quarantine activity? Do you love the marathons? Do you like exercising, cooking and eating meals together, or finding time away from the chaos? Oh, very cool. Very nice. I know I'm a mix of the cooking and eating meals together and marathons for sure. The TV movie marathons. I am not a runner. I'm not an exercising marathon person. All right. So our next example is to get you used to the typing and stuff. But how are you feeling about this weekend? You can type in anything. Are you feeling excited? Are you feeling worried? Exhausted? These are all anonymous as well, so feel free of answering whatever you feel. All right, yes. I like all of those. I feel those all in different levels. Nice. All right, testing your math skills. This one will not come with points, just to, again, get used to where to answer. Wonderful, perfect score. That is indeed 18. All right, so at this point, we are moving forward. We are going to be having our scored answers. So not only do you get points if it's correct or not, but you get points if you are like the first to answer it. So there's a mix of speed as well as having the correct answer. So good luck, everyone. So our first question is, what does ACEs stand for? Awkward childhood eras, adverse childhood experiences, awesome cooking experiments, or arbitrary capitalization and emphasis. Wonderful. Yes, so it is indeed adverse childhood experiences. So here we can see, all right, so Lucky Hamster was able to not only just answer the correct one, but quicker than Super Macaw and Genius Quail and so on. So that's how the game works. All right, let's keep moving forward. Rock Island County students are experiencing suicidal thoughts and depression at a blank rate than the average Illinois student. Good. So yes, it is at a higher rate. So this is definitely something that we want to address within our community at the school level and with our youth programming. Very nice. Lucky Hamster is still in first place. True or false? Someone with an ACE score of 3 is twice as likely to be an adult smoker than someone with a score of 0. Very good. Yes, that is true. Ooh, very nice. Lucky Hamster is on a streak. Globally, about how many people complete suicide each year? 8 million, 800,000, 80,000, 8,000. It is indeed 800,000 people. So quite a large amount. So again, not only is it a community concern, but it is a global concern. There we go. So due to that, we do want to make sure that we know that if you know of someone or if you yourself are experiencing a mental health emergency, that there is the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And also, in good news, they have, I believe it is by the summer of 2022, that phones in the US are all going to be ready to have a 3-digit number, kind of like how we use 911. I believe it's going to be 988. I could be wrong, but I believe that that's what the number is going to be. But a simpler way for people to reach out and get that help and get that assistance. So yes, approximately percent of youth receiving SUD treatment report a background of trauma. Is it 100, 70, 40, or 15? It is indeed 70%. So again, that very tight correlation between trauma and substance use. Ooh, Genius Quail has now taken the lead. Very nice. It's still anybody's game. We still have a few questions to go. True or false? Mental illness comes from a mix of biological and environmental influences. Indeed, that is true. We want to remember that it isn't some kind of moral failing or spiritual failing, but it is indeed a mix of biology and environment. The same as we would approach any other physical illnesses. We need to have that same respect for mental illnesses. And Lucky Hamster took it back and is back in the lead, but by a very small margin. So Genius Quail, you can totally do this. Wonder Yeti, Diligent Condor, y'all got it. About blank percent of US adults experience a mental health issue. 2, 20, 42, or 55. Nice. Yes. So about 20% is 1 in 5 adults. Very nice. All right. So this one is just open-ended, does not have a score. But what is something that you are planning on doing with to help your family, friends, or community? Again, this one is anonymous, but you have a little extra time to write in whatever may be stuck out to you today of action steps you can do to move forward. All right, just a few more seconds. So feel free. Again, it can be something even small, like checking in with a neighbor that maybe you haven't seen for a while, mowing that lawn, going ahead and just starting a conversation with your children or with your partner, checking in, seeing how they're doing. All right. So wonderful, free little library, calling older family who have to be extra careful, totally being a helpful hand and taking time to check in. Those are all wonderful ideas. It can be something small, it can be something large. Any of those, they all contribute to having an environment of wellness and support. All right, so that goes to our last question, which is true or false. Is it okay not to be okay? All right, there we go. So let's see who our winner is. So Diligent Condor, good job with coming in third. Wonder Yeti, congrats on coming in second. And our first place is Lucky Hamster. Woohoo! So Lucky Hamster, if with whatever email you put in, that's wonderful. We will look that up. But if you also want to send us a note so we can just like totally verify that we're sending it to the right spot, that would be wonderful as well. But congratulations. All right, I'm going to go back to sharing our other screen. So here we go. Sorry about that. Here we go. So coming up, we're going to try to continue this Let's Talk About series with some different topics. Our one in May was about e-cigarettes and vaping. It is also available on our website and on YouTube. We recorded it like we are recording this one. We also have coalition meetings coming up. We have the DEA National Drug Take Back coming up. And we always are interested in receiving questions because that helps us kind of figure out what resources are needed or what information is needed out there. These are our different ways to be contacted. So please feel free to reach out to us via email or through social media or through our site. At this point, are there still any last minute questions, comments, or concerns that anybody has?
I don't see any other questions in the chat box. I think the last thing I would want to say is if you even have your own resources that you know about that maybe we didn't include on our first draft of our resource guide, please share those with us. If your organization has any events coming up too, especially ones focused on substance use or things like that, we'd be happy to share on our Facebook just to kind of raise awareness about what else is out there too.
Yes, thank you, thank you. We know that resource guides are always fluid documents. So as especially again during COVID, some organizations have had to scale back or eliminate programming, while there have been some specialized grants for others to expand programming. So if you have new information about your agency or different things that you hear about, we would love to be able to promote those as well and share those with our community. Otherwise, thank you all so much for coming and being a part of this today, and for for participating, for listening, for being willing to show up and maybe learn something new. We hope that it was a good use of your time and a benefit to you. And again, we're always open to hearing feedback or different ideas. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.